Habit 3. Put first things first. Will and won't power. I was listening to a speech comparing the challenges faced by today's teens to those of teens who lived 150 years ago. I agreed with most of what the speaker said until this. The challenge that teens faced 150 years ago was hard work. The challenge that teens face today is the lack of hard work. Excuse me, I mumbled to myself. A lack of hard work? What are you smoking? I think teens are multitasking more than ever. I see it with my own eyes every day. Between school, socializing, extracurricular activities, clubs, athletics, part-time jobs, dealing with family, and on, there's barely time to breathe. A lack of hard work? Ha! Milking cows and mending fences doesn't sound any more difficult than juggling the multifaceted life of a 21st century teen. Let's face it, you've got a lot to do and there's just not enough time. After school, there's rehearsal, followed by work. There's also that bio test tomorrow, and you've got to text your friend relationship crisis advice. On top of that, you should exercise. The dog needs a walk, and your room's a disaster. What'll you do? Habit 3, put things first, can help. It's all about learning to prioritize and manage your time so that your first things come first, not last. But there's more to this habit than just time management. Putting first things first can also help you learn to overcome your fears and be strong during hard moments. In habit 2, you decided what your first things are. Habit 3, then, is putting them first in your life. Sure, we can have a nice list of goals and good intentions, but putting them into action is the hard part. That's why I call habit 3 the habit of willpower. The strength to say yes to your most important things, and won't power, the strength to say no to less important things and to peer pressure. The first 3 habits build upon each other. Habit 1 says you are the driver, not the passenger. Habit 2 says decide where you want to go and draw up a map to get you there. Habit 3 says, now get there. Don't let roadblocks knock you off course. Packing more into your life. Have you ever packed a suitcase and noticed how much more you can fit inside when you neatly fold and organize your clothes instead of just throwing them in? It's really quite surprising. The same goes for your life. The better you organize yourself, the more you'll be able to pack in. More time for family and friends. More time for school. More time for yourself, more time for your first things. I'd like to show you an amazing model called the time quadrants that can help you pack more in, especially important things. It's made up of 2 primary ingredients, important and urgent. Important are your most important things, your first things, activities that contribute to your mission and your goals. Urgent. Urgent things have to be done as soon as possible. In your face things, activities that demand immediate attention. In general, we spend our time in 4 different time quadrants as shown below. Each quadrant contains different kinds of activities and is represented by a type of person. The time quadrants. If you haven't already noticed, we live in a society that's addicted to urgency. It's the now generation. That's why we have internet on our phones, instant messaging, Instagram, fad diets, fast food, 150 character tweets, and online shopping. It reminds me of Veruca Salt, the spoiled rich girl in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory who keeps saying, now, Daddy, now. I want a Oompa Loompa now. Urgent things aren't bad, necessarily. The problem comes when we become so focused on urgent things that we put off important things that aren't urgent. Like working on that report in advance, going for a walk in nature, or taking time to video chat with a long-distance friend. All these important things get interrupted by urgent things, like texts, emails, deadlines, and other in-your-face do-it-this-second things. As we dig a little deeper into each quadrant, Ask yourself, what quadrant am I spending most of my time in? Quadrant 1, the procrastinator. Let's start with quadrant 1, things that are both urgent and important. There will always be quadrant 1 things that we can't control, that must get done, like helping someone who is sick or sticking to a due date. But we also cause many quadrant 1 headaches because we procrastinate, like when we put off doing our homework and then have to cram all night for a test, or when we neglect our bike for too long and then have to take it in to get repaired. Quadrant 1 is part of life, but if you're spending too much time in quadrant 1, believe me, you'll feel like a hot mess and you'll seldom be performing to your potential. Meet the procrastinator, who hangs out in quadrant 1. Perhaps you know her. Her motto is, I'm going to stop procrastinating sometime soon. Don't expect her to work on a paper or study for a test until the night before. And don't expect her to take time to get gas. She's usually too busy driving. The procrastinator is addicted to urgency. She likes to put things off and put things off and put things off until it becomes a crisis. But she likes it that way because, you see, even though it's stressful, doing everything at the last minute gives her a rush. In fact, her mind won't kick into gear until there's an emergency. She thrives under pressure. Planning ahead is simply out of the question for the procrastinator because it would ruin the excitement of doing everything at the last possible moment. I can relate to the procrastinator because I was a cram artist in high school. I used to think it was impressive to not study all semester, then cram the night before and pull off a good grade. How stupid! Sure, I got the grade, but I didn't learn a thing, and I paid for it in college. In many ways, I'm still paying for it. One procrastinating teen said it this way: what I do is I slack off until the end of the term and kill myself for the last 2 weeks. When grades come out, I get around a 3.7 to a 3.8, but I don't feel I have earned it because everyone else turns stuff in on time and does what they're supposed to do. They're not stressed. That's how I want to be. The results of too much time in quadrant 1 are stress and anxiety, feeling burnt out, mediocre performance. Quadrant 2, the prioritizer. We'll save the best for last. I'll keep you in suspense for now. Quadrant 3, the yes man. Quadrant 3 represents things that are urgent but not important. It is characterized by trying to please other people and responding to their every desire. This quadrant is deceptive because urgent, immediate things feel important. In truth, they're often not. I mean, how many times do you drop something to check your phone when the only text you got is from a friend responding K or LOL and that's it? Not really worth the interruption. Quadrant 3 is loaded with activities that are important to other people but not important to you. Things that you would like to say no to but can't because you're afraid you might offend someone. Meet the yes man of quadrant 3, who has a hard time saying no to anything or anyone. He tries so hard to please everyone that he usually ends up pleasing no one, including himself. He suffers from FOMO, fear of missing out. He can't stop imagining that everyone's having fun without him, and so he tries to be a part of everything. He often caves to peer pressure because he likes feeling popular and he wouldn't want to stand out. His motto is, tomorrow I'll be more assertive, if that's okay with you. When his friends dropped by unexpectedly one evening and wanted him to go for a night ride, he just couldn't muster up the courage to turn them down. He didn't want to disappoint his buddies. It didn't matter that he was taking a massive test the next morning and needed to study and get some sleep. He told his sister that he'd help her with math, but he couldn't resist getting distracted by a texting marathon for most of the night, even though it wasn't that important. He didn't really want to join the swimming team. He preferred graphic design, but his dad was a swimmer and, of course, he didn't want to let him down. I think all of us, myself included, have a little bit of quadrant 3 inside of us. But we won't accomplish much if we say yes to everything and never learn to focus on what's most important. A comedian said it well. I don't know the key to success, but the key to failure is to try to please everyone. Quadrant 3 is one of the worst quadrants to be in because it has no backbone. It's fickle and will blow whichever way the wind is blowing. The results of spending too much time in Quadrant 3 are feeling like a follower rather than a leader, lack of discipline, feeling like a doormat for others to wipe their feet on. On to Quadrant 4, the slacker. Quadrant 4 is the category of waste and excess. These activities are neither urgent nor important. Meet the slacker who hangs out in Quadrant 4. He loves anything in excess, like too much TV, too much sleep, too much PlayStation, or too much time online. Two of his favorite pastimes include regular napping and binging on an entire TV series each weekend, and of course, Fortnite all day. He's a professional slacker. Sleeping in until noon takes real skill after all. School, of course, is the last thing on his mind, and a summer job is out of the question. He'd rather, just hang out. Yes, of course, chilling out and watching videos online are part of a healthy lifestyle. It's only when they're done in excess that they become a waste of time. You'll know when you cross that line. Watching that first episode of your favorite TV show might be just what you need to relax, and that's okay. But then, watching the second, third, or even fourth show, a rerun that you've seen 5 times already until 2 a.m., turns a relaxing evening into a wasted one. The results of living in Quadrant 4 are a lack of responsibility, guilt, flakiness, missing out on adventures. Last but not least, Quadrant 2, the prioritizer. Quadrant 2 is made up of things that are important but not urgent, like relaxation, friendships, working out, planning ahead, and doing homework on time. It's the quadrant of excellence, the place to be. Quadrant 2 activities are important, but are Quadrant 2 activities urgent? No, and that's why we have trouble doing them. For example, getting a good summer job may be very important to you, but since it's weeks away and not urgent, you may put off looking on Craigslist until it's too late, and suddenly all of the good jobs are filled. Had you been in Quadrant 2, you would have planned ahead and found a better job. It wouldn't take more time, just a little more planning. Meet the prioritizer. Although she's by no means perfect, she's basically got it together. She takes a look at everything she has to do and then prioritizes, making sure her first things get done first and her last things last. Because she has the simple but powerful habit of planning ahead, she's usually on top of things. By doing her homework on time and writing papers a little in advance, she does her best work and avoids the stress and burnout that come from cramming. She makes time to exercise and renew herself, even if it means pushing aside other things once in a while. The people who matter most in her life, like her friends and her family, come first. Although it's a struggle, staying balanced is important to her. She changes the oil in her car regularly, and she doesn't wait until she's running on fumes to fill up with gas. She takes time to relax, but knows there's a time and a place to let loose. She's learned how to say no with a smile when her friends dropped by unexpectedly one evening to go to a party. She said, "Nah, I have a huge test tomorrow. How about Friday night? Let's go out then." Her friends were okay with that and secretly wished they'd had the courage to stick to their guns too. She's learned that resisting peer pressure appears unpopular at first, but that people come to respect her for it. The results of living in Quadrant 2 are control of your life, balance, high performance. So in which quadrant are you spending the majority of your time? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Since in reality we all spend some time in each quadrant, the key is to shift as much time as possible into Quadrant 2. And the only way you'll find more time for Quadrant 2 is to reduce the amount of time you spend in the other quadrants. Here's how to do that. Shrink Quadrant 1 by procrastinating less. You're always going to have lots to do in Quadrant 1. That's guaranteed. But if you can cut your procrastination in half by doing important things early, you'll be in quadrant 1 far less often. And less quadrant 1 time means less stress. Say no to quadrant 3 activities. Learn to say no to unimportant things that pull you away from more important ones. Don't be so interruptible. Trying to please everyone is like a dog trying to catch its tail. Remember, when you're saying no, you're really saying yes to more important things. Cut down on quadrant 4, slacker activities. Don't stop doing these things. Just do them less often. You don't have time to waste. Shift this time to quadrant 2. You need to relax and kick back, but remember, relaxation is quadrant 2. Excessive relaxation is quadrant 4. In addition to spending more time in quadrant 2, consider 2 other suggestions to help you better manage your time and put first things first. Start a calendar and plan weekly. Get a planner. To start with, I highly recommend getting a planner or calendar, or on your computer, phone, on paper, whatever works. Just somewhere with space to write down appointments, to-do lists, and goals. There are some great apps for calendars, or if you want, you can buy a paper planner or make your own out of a spiral-bound notebook. Some of you might be thinking, I don't want my life to be tied to a planner. I like my freedom. If this is you, keep in mind that a planner wasn't designed to tie you down, but to free you up. With a planner, you'll no longer have to worry about forgetting things or double booking yourself. It will remind you when your papers are due and tests are to be taken. You can keep all of your important information in one place instead of scattered all over. A planner is not meant to be your master, but a tool to help you live your life. Plan weekly. Take a few minutes each week to plan your week and see what a difference it can make. Why weekly? Because we think in weeks, and because daily planning is too narrow a focus and monthly planning is too broad a focus. Once you have a planner of some sort, follow this 3-step weekly planning process. Step 1. Identify your big rocks. At the end or beginning of each week, sit down and think about what you want to accomplish for the upcoming week. Ask yourself, what are the most important things I need to do this week? I will call these your big rocks. They are sort of like mini goals and should be tied into your mission statement and longer term goals. Not surprisingly, you'll find that most of them will be quadrant 2s. You might come up with a list of big rocks that looks something like this. My big rocks for the week: study for chemistry test, finish The Great Gatsby for English, attend Carly's game, finish summer job applications, party at Angeli's, work out 3 times. So how do you know which are your big rocks? Well, think through the key roles of your life: student, friend, family member, employee, individual, and whatever else you do, and then come up with the 1 or 2 most important things you want to get done in each role. Planning your life around roles majorly helps you stay balanced. Here's an example of what it might look like to organize your rocks based on your role. As a student, you might need to get started on a history report. As a friend, you've got Julio's birthday. You also want to be more complimentary. As a family member, get a Mother's Day gift. Call grandma. For your job, get to work on time. For yourself, go to Jaden's gig. Write in a journal every night. For debate, you want to work on your team research, maybe practice arguments, or practice your openings. Don't get carried away when you're identifying your big rocks for the week. Although you may feel you have 40 big rocks that must get done, be realistic and narrow your focus to no more than 7 to 10. Go ahead and take some time right now on a loose leaf sheet of paper and write down the different roles that you take in your life. And then I want you to write out 1 to 2 rocks for each role. My roles. my rocks. So the different roles that Miss Silito has. I am a teacher. Whoops, didn't spell that right. I'm a mother. I'm a friend. I am a soccer coach. I am a wife. And sister. So rocks for my role as a teacher. Plan my weekly lessons. This is a big deal. As a mother, I need to work on being patient. I need to work on being a listener. As a friend, I just need to make time for my friends. Maybe I'll go have coffee with Gina. Okay, so now you take about 10 minutes to write down your different roles and 1 to 2 rocks for each role.